And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. We'll look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I also am a co-host of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how goes it?
It goes really well here in sunny Southern California, Rich. However, you look like you're in a different place than we normally see you on the program.
I am wandering about America this week and next week. I'm right now in Rockford, Illinois. I'm spending the weekend here visiting with friends, but I came here yesterday from Newark, New Jersey, where we staged our first live ChannelPro SMB Forum Conference of the year. It went really, really great. We're going to be in Chicago in May, by the way. We're going to be in Dallas in June, 3 other cities later in the year. Events.channelpronetwork.com to come join us. And sign up soon, because lots of people apparently are eager to be with us, which is great. Great to see live events happening again. And next week, first thing Monday, Eric, I go into Chicago to attend the CompTIA CCF conference.
Yes, I mean, it almost makes me want to say, we're back, baby. I don't know. I did my first travel of the year and one of the few travel engagements since the whole pandemic thing happened this week as well. So I think we might be back. I don't know. Crossing my fingers. Let's see.
I think we're all just a little bit wary of being too confident of that. But yeah, the signs are all pointed in the right direction. And in fact, that is a great lead in to our top story this week, which is the ChannelPro 2022 State of the Channel Report. We're going to talk a little bit about the numbers in that. And for folks who are new to it, we do this once a year. There are obviously plenty of other research surveys out there. I think you will have a hard time finding something that is more in-depth and complete and 100% focused, not just on the channel, but on the SMB channel specifically. And Eric, you know, the theme that we chose to kind of characterize the numbers in this year's report is happy days are here again. Now, maybe that's pushing things just a little bit, but you know, I write this article every year, and I'm thinking back to 12 months ago when we were just starting to see vaccines in circulation. Things were just starting to appear to head in the right direction. There was a lot of caution and cautiousness in the people who we were surveying a year ago for the State of the Channel survey. A lot less of that this year. Let me run through just a few highlights for you. So last year, or as the respondents to this year's study told us about their results from 2021, 40% said that they had higher revenue last year. 42% said they had higher profit, which sounds okay. But if you go back to 2019, before the pandemic, 53% had higher revenue, 50% had higher profit. So people were definitely still kind of feeling it. In that 2021, the second year of the year of the pandemic. But you know what, you look at last year's numbers, when we asked people this question a year ago, and it was 35% had seen greater revenue in 2020, and 37% had seen greater profit in 2020. To have people back at 40%, 42% is really, really good, a good sign. And there's a lot of optimism for the future, Eric, which is even better. 64% of the respondents to the survey project higher revenue this year. 60% expect more profit. Both of those numbers are up from 51% a year ago, so a considerable amount more of optimism and hope for the future. 38%, just 38% expect conditions for the economy to be better this year. And I'm sure people have inflation and continuing supply chain issues on their mind when they say that. But 69% expect conditions for their company to be better in 2022 than last year. And 35% within that 69 say much better. 50% expect to add headcount because they're expecting a lot more IT spending, a lot more work. They know they're going to need people. We won't get into these numbers, but everybody knows they're going to have to pay more for that additional headcount. And there was some statistical verification of that. So long story short, Eric, a year ago at this time, you could tell that the pandemic had really made an impact on balance sheets out there. You could tell that people were kind of hopeful for the future, but wary about it at the same time. Fast forward 12 months, and the projections for the future are really, really bright. The reports from last year turn out to be okay.
Yeah, Rich, I'm thinking about the discussion that we always have around how business owners had to adapt quickly to the lockdowns and increase their security posture to support these remote workforces and migrate more of their assets and their strategy to the cloud. And I think the other half of that conversation is relevant here. Just as those business owners had to mature in that respect, so did the channel pros and the MSPs and the IT providers that were supporting them. And I've got a crazy theory that sounds like this. So we channel pros that were supporting that migration to the cloud, of course, that very first year, that's what caused a lot of the supply chain outages, right? Folks were just buying up laptops and extra monitors and, setting up these work from home workers, firewalls and all these other things. And we saw that spike in hardware sales, right? We talked about that in a prior program back, when it was relevant, right? And so, I can see that increase in revenue and profit as ChannelPro sold these additional services to set these organizations up. The other aspect of this that, I sense from speaking with a lot of partners is, okay, we did what we did kind of in a reactionary mode, and we weren't really very strategic about, truing up clients during that time, invoicing them even what we should have invoiced them, even though they were making more money. I sensed that there was this gap of, okay, we'll just figure it out later. We're all in this together, kumbaya, we're here for you. And then, this period where, okay, we haven't been able to really true up, or maybe we haven't had that discussion yet. And then over time, we're seeing our costs increase, right? You mentioned inflation. I know there are global stressors now that are impacting things like the cost of gasoline and other things, right, that we're still struggling through right now. And I think that the MSPs and the channel pros that actually went through that maturity journey along with their clients now sit in this better position. I think some of the folks that are more positive and optimistic about the future are those that have come through the other side. Now, of course, we had, a percentage of channel pros that weren't as successful, and some of them, are no longer with us as well, right? But the ones that went through this now, I think, were forced to mature their business perspective and strategy, just like their business customers were forced to do the same thing. So I think we have a now more mature group of IT providers, channel pros, and MSPs that now see the value of continuing to support this cloud migration, this cybersecurity focus, supporting those work from home opportunities that, business owners that are still contemplating today. And I dare say, Rich, because of the global situation that we're in and the increased cost of fuel and things like that, we may see more adoption or longer term adoption of work from home and the perspective of the channel pros to deliver support more remotely, reducing truck rolls just to keep costs down as well.
So let me give a little statistical verification to what you're talking about there with maturity before we move on, which is just that, I said 40% of the respondents had higher revenue last year, 42% had higher profit. At the same time, 20% had lower revenue, 22% had lower profit. And those, those numbers were in single digits if you go back to 2019. And so I do think that there is this trend reflected there, of the partners who went through that maturity journey are the ones who are doing very, very well right now. And the folks who didn't or haven't done it yet maybe aren't doing quite as well. And I've had conversations with people, and I'm thinking in particular of Gary Pica, who said, the data he collects pretty much shows that as well. If you look at the top 25% of MSPs, they are crushing it right now. You look at everybody else, it's not quite so, the trends aren't quite so strong. So I do think there are some highs and lows, winners and losers within the managed services community right now. And you're seeing some of that here as well. So Eric, your tip of the week is about something that maybe the winners, the more mature MSPs out there know to do that the others don't.
Yes, and happy to share, Rich. So the tip of the week is stop sending all of your tickets to level 1 or tier 1. Stop sending all of your tickets to level 1 or tier 1. And you're right, Rich, the more mature providers that are running more effective and profitable service tests understand how to identify, categorize, and assign tickets properly so that they're not sending tickets to level 1 or tier 1 technicians that end up being escalated out. One of the KPIs that we tend to fail to measure sometimes is how the percentage of tickets that are escalated out of a particular tier or queue to another higher level tier or queue. So here's a few quick tips for those of us that are looking for improving the efficiency, profitability of the service desk, and as well as staff satisfaction and client satisfaction. Number one, identify and establish what tickets should always go to tier 1 or level 1. These are tickets that you've documented how to resolve, that the staff is trained on how to resolve. They're following the process for incident management and resolution, and can be closed within your target ticket resolution time frame. Okay, so let's say that your target ticket resolution time frame for a tier 1 ticket is 30 minutes. Make certain that you're only sending tickets to level 1 that meet those criteria. Now, you may have different, target resolution times, 45 minutes, et cetera. In my experience, and in another lifetime, Rich, as we've talked before, I used to build out call centers and service desks for Fortune 1000 organizations. So, my KPIs are quite extensive of what I measure on these things. But if we're doing this correctly, if we're documenting how to resolve these issues, if we're only sending level 1 tickets to level 1 technicians and they're trained to resolve them, and our systems are optimized and automated to reduce, repetitive, mundane labor time, then what I'm seeing is level 1 technician performance closing 17 to 20 tickets per day, which may sound crazy to some MSPs, but I'm going to ask you to trust me on this, but you've got to do these things correctly. Only send those tickets that can be closed to level 1, and measure your escalation percentage. You want that in low single-digit percentages. If you're escalating a lot of tickets out of level 1, reevaluate what you're doing. Only send level 2 tickets to level 2 and beyond. The level 1 team's job is to clear the queues. They're there to churn through as many tickets as possible. And when you're tiering your service desk and doing this for every tier, you're probably going to end up with 95+% of all tickets being resolved in level 1, the small balance of the remaining percentage in level 2, and a very, very small fraction having to be escalated to level 3, which are typically tickets that may require you to engage with a third-party vendor or hire or manufacturer higher level support. It's something that has to do with things that you may not be able to solve without escalating out to a manufacturer or vendor or super high level external resource to get resolved. So that's how you maximize the performance of level 1.
So I love that KPI tip. I haven't actually heard of escalation rate as a great KPI to track, but it's a really good one.
Yeah.
And just to be clear for folks in the audience here, I mean, so you need to have a dispatcher of some kind in place, somebody who's doing that triage and deciding this is level 1 versus level 2, and sending the level 2 stuff directly to the appropriate people.
Absolutely, Rich. And I know there are some providers out there that have, you know, figured out what they think is a great way to automate that, that ticket identification and assignment through a platform or some sort of, AI that, in my experience, I've not found that level of intelligence in a system. And so the service dispatcher is a key component of this, because otherwise we're asking the technicians themselves to cherry pick and work on issues based on what they feel like they should be working on at that point. Now, I'm an engineer by trade. I started on the service desk, Rich, in my career, so I understand what it feels like at 4 p.m. on Friday when I've got this ticket that I know cannot be resolved before I want to punch out and go home. And rather than, taking that ticket, I have decided to close 3 other simpler tickets just to get my ticket quota up that day, right? These are the journeys that we all go through. So I understand that, and the dispatcher's role is to own the life cycle, incident management, the incident management life cycle of every ticket. They're ultimately responsible for SLA management and maintenance, because when you have 20 people on a level 1 service desk, who's responsible for SLA management of the overall ticket load? All of them, right? When everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible. So you're absolutely right, Rich. The service dispatcher, I think, in my opinion, is a requirement.
So that is very intelligent advice, Eric. Leaves us with time for just one more story this week, and it concerns somebody who is significantly less intelligent. Now, I believe on a recent episode of the show that we were talking about a crime story in the news. We're trying to count up the number of ways in which this captured criminal had made some bad decisions. We've got another story of that sort for you this week. So first of all, this concerns a U.S. citizen crossing the border from Mexico into the U.S. at the San Ysidro border crossing station recently, trying to sneak some banned reptiles into the country. Some of them are endangered species. Wasn't supposed to have those with him. Bad idea number 1. Bad idea number 2. Did he try to, hide them in the car or something like that? No, he stashed them away on his person, in his pockets, in what the Associated Press delicately referred to as his groin area. Another bad idea right there. And here's the last one. If you're really going to try to sneak banned reptiles into the U.S. in your pockets, is it a good idea to try to sneak 52 of them in that way? Well, this person apparently thought so. We're talking snakes, 9 snakes and 43 horned lizards in little plastic bags. Apparently those guys could breathe. It was okay. Stashed away, pockets taped to his body. By golly, and it's hard to believe, and yet somehow or another, he was caught in the act.
It must have been a very eventful pat-down procedure.
Yes. Yes.
That's insane what some people think is a good idea, especially crossing borders.
Right. Yeah. Well, it didn't work out for him, but folks, we thank you very much for joining us this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. We're going to be back again a week from now with another episode for you. You know what? We are both a video and a podcast these days. If you're watching the video, but you like podcasts, you can find us in your favorite pod catcher, whether that's Stitcher, Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, you name it. Go ahead, subscribe, rate, review, so other folks can find the show too. If you're listening to the podcast, but you kind of want to check us out on video, easiest way to do that is to go to YouTube, look for the ChannelPro Network channel. You can become a subscriber there too. And if you click the bell icon, you'll even get notified when the new episodes become available. If you want to read more, there's a lot more data in the 2022 ChannelPro State of the Channel report, and you will find that on our homepage, channelpronetwork.com, along with news coverage and all sorts of great business growth advice for your company that goes up there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, you want to visit ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, we thank you for joining us, folks. Until we see you again a week from now, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.
Already.